All right, let's continue answering the questions from that post that I made last week, probably by now. There's so many questions; it's so hard to get everything through. So, which is excellent because one post and there's hundreds of questions, which is excellent. So I'll continue. I think I'm up to like an hour and a half total video length in terms of how many questions I've answered so far. So I'll just continue. I've kind of lost track what I answered, what I haven't. So I've just clicked here, newest first. So the first one, the latest one, was 3 days ago, is from Ray. He goes, "Saludos from El Paso, Texas," which if you click translate, it reads, "Greetings from El Paso, Texas." Greetings to you like always, Ray. Ray's been one of the longest supporting fellas of the channel for I don't know how many years now, but Ray's always around. So really appreciate your support, man. Matthew Blackwell writes, "Do you think traditional periodization is the only way to develop strength? Are there potentially any alternative development schemes we could explore?" Matt, if you have watched any of my stuff, you'll know that I'm so far away from traditional periodization that it's not even funny. Traditional periodization is very well supported. It's one of the best ways to develop strength, to get better at any sport. It's not just weightlifting. Many sports, use some form of periodization. Periodization basically meaning there are different phases of training. So in barbell lifts, in barbell worlds, we go, okay, so we'll do GPP for 4 weeks. We'll do strength training. We'll do hypertrophy training for 4 weeks. We'll do some strength training for another 4 weeks, and then we'll peak for a couple of weeks, and then we'll test. That's kind of the idea that there are seasons of each type of result that we're after. So if we were just to say we don't want to periodize at all, and we just do one form of this periodization scheme, so let's say we just do GPP year round. The traditional idea is that you will never get the best representation of what your body's capable if you just always stay in the GPP block. Same goes for peaking, strength, and hypertrophy. So you need to kind of incorporate all of these to produce the most optimal results on a given day in the future. So that's kind of the idea there. There have been other forms of, let's say, periodization or methods of training where you're not periodizing week by week or month by month. You're periodizing like day to day. So let's say Monday, Texas method was kind of doing that. I remember doing strong lifts 5x5 as well. So the idea there is it's kind of like self-auto-regulated in the sense it's like a linear progression, not auto-regulated. So you're linearly progressing weights if you hit certain parameters. So let's say you hit 5x5 or 100 kilos on the squat. Well, that means that very next time you increase it by 2.5 kilos. So that's one way. So where you have a goal set and that triggers the next progression. You also have other progressions where, like the Texas method, doesn't really care what you're doing. Every single week you're going up 2.5 kilos. So that's kind of like a very rigid structure that you place upon your training. And so every single day that you train, you are going up in intensity. And eventually you will start to fail some of these lifts. And then when you fail too much, you're supposed to trigger an entire reset with a higher starting point. So there's many different ways people have thought about this problem of how to go through different phases of training, where you go from strength to peaking, or where you go from GPP to hypertrophy to strength and peaking. So there's many different ways of going about it. My thing and my trouble has been always when I first started training is that, cool, that's all well and good, but there's life. And I'm just a regular guy, and training is not what I get paid for. I found all of those other ideas very hard to live with. Very, very hard. The guys who are pushing this idea, I found were not thinking about me, the shift working nurse on night shifts, on day shifts, on late shifts. So I struggled for a very long time with this idea. How the hell do I make this work? What if I have to come off a night shift on a day? What if I have a week of nights? And this has happened. Week of nights on the week where I'm supposed to be peaking. Well, why don't you plan ahead? I can't plan ahead, dude. Like I know my roster 6 weeks in advance. So if I start a 12-week system, and it falls on this. Like, I didn't know that I was going to have this shitty of a period this week. So I always kind of had trouble, and then eventually all of that boiled down to, you know what, screw all this crap. Let me just run my own thing according to my own life. And so, you know, I don't want to say I'm well read, but I've read a lot of stuff from Western to Eastern philosophies. And it always came back to, no matter how you do it, rigid thought processes where you are placing this rigid structure on top of your life, which is fluid and chaotic, like mine is with the shift work. It never really worked out. I was getting sick. I was getting frustrated. I was always far from optimal because I could not align my life to the program that I set forth. So the traditional periodization is fantastic if you can make it work. Now, if you have a very, very stable life and you have training above everything, of course you can make it work. This stuff has worked. You know, they've studied Olympians, right? Olympians. They've proven that it works really, really well. But are you an Olympian? I am not an Olympian. Olympians get lots of sleep, great nutrition, great supplementation. Of course, this stuff is going to work. But for somebody like me, I just went, you know, my love for training is suffering with this. And I'm probably going to quit if I continue doing this. And then that's when I discovered Pavel Tsatsouline and some of these other ideas, the Bulgarians. And I thought, you know what, this is awesome. How about I auto-regulate this stuff? And of course, that's not the most ideal, but it works for me because, as you've seen, I've done 5 years of training non-stop almost, and I'm flourishing. This is flourishing, like I'm active all the time, and it's drawing me back because there's this element of auto-regulation. I'm not stuck with some rigid idea that I have to live with forever. So the traditional periodization is best only if you can make it work. And I would argue that traditional periodization has stopped people from training more so than the auto-regulation stuff that I'm talking about. Because how many people can survive banging their head against the wall constantly? And so I've gone this route, and it makes me rock up. And that's kind of the best thing about it. After that, of course, we can argue until the cows come home. But the literature is supporting your argument by far that the traditional periodization is most effective. We have Go Hetty here says, your eye bags, my brother. I know you're medicine pro and stuff, but maybe just in case this is something you have missed. Basically, maybe too much sodium, too little potassium. He's got a link here, so let me...
Show you how to get rid of puffy eyes, okay? It's so easy. All you have to do is understand the mechanism. There's a lot of fancy terms for puffy eyes, periorbital edema. All you need to know is it's called eye bags, and unfortunately, the medical profession treats this condition with drugs, steroids, antihistamines, all sorts of medication.
I'll give this a listen later on, I guess. Listen, the eye bags, you know, clearly not the greatest thing for me. I've now lost my way. What's happening here? What's happened here? I've lost myself. Yeah, so the eye bags are clearly not the greatest thing for me. But it's just a representation of maybe the stuff that I already talked about in the video, is that's just the nature of my work, man. You know, a lot of times you guys catch me off nights, in between shifts. I work hard in the gym, and then I work in the resource room, and I come back, and there's a lot of debt that I have to repay on my days off in terms of resting. And then I catch myself out sometimes because on those days off, I try to go real hard. I try to really, really push the training. And I'm like, damn, I've come into this day off in a deficit of sleep, deficit of recovery. And now because I have a day off, I try to work hard in the gym because I have a day off, I have time. And so it's a constant battle with myself, how hard to push, when to slow down a little bit. It's something that it's a constant work in progress, but you and many others have noticed that I look tired sometimes. Of course, man, of course. After a night shift, you feel tired, and I do a night shift every single week. So instead of doing like a block of nights that a lot of my colleagues do, so 4 or 5 nights in 1 week, I've decided that's way too disruptive to my life, family life, training life. I've just gone, you know what, let me do one every week. The one every week seems like it's kind of like me going out to town with the boys, minus the alcohol, obviously. And so I found it a little bit more kind of doable, but it's something that I can't get away from. Everyone's got to do nights. Everyone that's kind of on the floor, on the clinical floor, you have to do nights. So it's just part of it, man. It's not the greatest for us, for sure, but it's part of it. MY5360 says, man, I was watching you the last time years ago, and you are still going hard, my baller. So much respect. Appreciate that, man. Nick Jardine, man, am I saying that right? I'm not sure, but I know Nick has been around for a long time. Do you feel like you will age well? Do you have any long-term life goals? Favorite bands or musicians? You're the man. Do I feel I will age well? I think so. I mean, clearly you don't know what's going on. I mean, yesterday we had a lady, 51-year-old lady that came to ED after she collapsed and had a cardiac arrest in the community. They brought her in with the breathing tube already in, and some of the initial blood tests and gases that some of the tests that we did was very, very bad. So I don't even know if she's going to make it. But I thought to myself, well, she's 51, I'm 35. So that's not many years in between, 15, 16 years until I'm her age. And I thought to myself, what if I die at 51? We often live with this idea that we'll live to 100, but that's not promised, man. The majority of people die before 100. But everything that I've kind of done in my life, I've done with a health approach. I haven't abused drugs. I haven't abused alcohol. Of course, I drank alcohol when I was younger and lived that life, party life. But I haven't really smashed my body like some people. I train often. Training has always been part of my life. Basketball, soccer, now weightlifting. I'm always kind of about that. And a lot of people say to me that I look younger than I actually look. I look younger than I am, rather. So, who knows? Who knows how this goes? A lot of life expectancy is genetics, obviously, but a lot of it is also nurture. So that nature versus nurture argument, we have a lot of impact on that. How you live, how much you move, how much you sleep, all of that matters. So hopefully I will age well. Do you have any long-term life goals? Long-term life goals. I've always kind of wanted to, obviously I enjoy nursing, but I've always wanted to reduce my nursing hours and do something where I'm the boss. And in the health industry, you are never the boss. Even the CEO of the hospital is not the boss, because there's always a politician around the corner saying what you need to do. And with the politicians, there's always some other pressure from the industry, people that are funding the political agendas. So I've always kind of wanted to do that. Whether I can do something with the YouTube channel one day, maybe, I don't know. I know what my interests are. It's around fitness and health and moving, and maybe when my kids are a little bit older, I might be able to kind of like incorporate them into I don't know, coaching basketball, doing something like that. I don't know. Those doors will open eventually. But right now, like, I'm in the stage of having young kids, and it's very hard to do anything other than I'm already what I'm doing right now, and I'm enjoying it. So I usually just follow my gut feeling. I follow the soul, follow this more than this. And right now I'm happy, man. Everything's going so well. I'm happy with how much I'm working, how I'm training. Everyone's happy and healthy in my house. We have the roof over our head. Like, everything's going really, really well. So really the goal is just to keep status quo, keep everyone healthy and happy, and I'm happy. Favorite bands or musicians? You the man. Oh man, favorite bands. I've never had favorite anything. I've kind of liked many different things, even basketball. Some people say, the Denver Nuggets is your team. The only reason Denver Nuggets is my team right now is because of Nikola Jokic. I'm not tied to any franchise. I just like what I like to watch. And so in 10, 15, 20 years time, Jokic might leave the Denver Nuggets, and then all of a sudden I have nothing to watch there. So it's kind of like that. I remember early on in my life, I enjoyed Eminem. I enjoyed DMX. I enjoyed Ja Rule, like all these guys. But, you grow up and you grow out of certain things, you move into other things. Dance music, I remember that stage. There's so many different things that I've enjoyed. And it depends on the mood, really. Like, the music is, sometimes I listen to rock music. Like, I'm not a huge fan of it, but like sometimes the mood is I want to somebody smashing the shit out of the drums. So I'm kind of all over the place. Small Swagger says, have you ever tried going for a diet? Yeah, man, I've done a lot of experimentation with my diet. I remember seeing the Knives Over Forks documentary back in the day, man. That really shook me up, man. Like, I couldn't believe how we process foods. Like, I didn't know that's kind of how we did it. And after I watched that, man, I was so shook. I would have been, I don't know, 21, 22 at the time or something like that. I just basically went full on vegetarian. I just dropped meat altogether. And that kind of opened up the idea of diet in me for various different motivations. Obviously, the Knives Over Forks documentary was kind of for animal rights and all that stuff. And then I kind of, through the process of doing that for 3 months, I kind of learned more and more, and I realized that Australia has much better practices than America. So I started eating meat again, but always mindful of where this meat comes from, what I'm actually consuming, not just the nutritional aspect of it, but also the industry that's brought this to me. So I opened up my eyes, definitely. I've tried keto for a small week or something. That wasn't enough. I've tried paleo. I've tried lots of different ideas, experiments. This is kind of all before I went crazy with the training. At 25, I really started crazy with training. And since then, it was all about how do I put on tissue. And some of these diets are very much anti-high calories. It's all about calorie restrictions. And so the bottom line with me is I believe that for the most part, a balanced diet is the best way to go about it. There's so many different perspectives. If you listen to everyone, you basically won't eat anything at all. There's always some group of people that are bashing one particular macro or one particular industry. So if you listen to everyone, you just basically die of hunger because nothing is good to consume. There's recently I heard people talk about how vegetables are bad for you because of the toxins in vegetables. It's like, what? Oh, there's protective enzymes in these vegetables which protect themselves, and so they cause all these. I don't know the terminology, but there's all these different chemicals in your body which inflame you and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, the people that hate meat, the people that hate vegetables, the people that hate seafood, there's people that hate milk and dairy and all this stuff. I'm like, where do we end? So I'm kind of turned off by the whole diet conversation because there's always a team of people bashing something. James says, hello, writes, I have a couple to throw your way. Number one, how do you think the kind of journaling approach to your training has affected your progress and enjoyment? Man, James, I think the journaling is a very, very large part. I never saw it coming. I really never saw it coming. But initially, I wanted to make videos that I could go back to in a few years' time and see not only visually how I looked, how I moved, but also what was going on in my mind. And the speech behind these videos was about, okay, here's a visual representation. It's also my knowledge and my direction of thought about what I was seeing. And then eventually, I started realizing that I started talking every single video, where initially I didn't think I was going to do that, but I started talking every video, and I started feeling like I was having a debrief after every day. If I have a really busy, traumatic shift at work, I would sit down and talk about that, and to the guys that are lifting, and on the channel for me to lift. Here they are talking, listening to me talk about bloody nursing stories and medical stories. So I even found that to be really debriefing. So I feel like you guys are my therapist. It's really, really weird. So the journaling, both, through this audio and through me writing snippets on paper, is very, very positive for me. Very, very positive, and it's probably a big factor in why I've continued to do this for a long time, because there's a third dimension to all of this, which has got nothing to do with training at all. It's just the psychological counseling that I get from this. Number two, if you had to take the time and effort you've put into strength training and transfer it to something else, like in the click of a finger, what would that skill or area be? That is a good question, man. If I could sink the freaking thousands of hours that I've sunk into this, into something else, the only other interest that I really have other than family and all that stuff the matters of the heart, family and wife and kids and all that stuff. The only other thing that I had before training was cars. I still have like a big desire to, I don't have the space all the time or the money. I just want to play with cars. I want to pull the engine out of the Evo. I want to rip it down, rebuild it, learn how to do that, learn how to play with cars. I felt like in my earlier life, I thought, like even when I was a teenager, I thought that was going to be my direction. I was going to just play with cars, be the car guy. And then it never happened because training started to become more and more dominant in my life and became the thing I wanted to spend every free moment that I had. And so probably if I couldn't do training and this path, I'll probably do something with cars, something, along those lines. Number 3, dream barbell rotation, i.e. 3 or 4 people you'd like to get together to train with. Big respect as always, man. Thank you, James. Really amazing questions, actually, man. 3 people or 4 people you'd like to get together to train with. Man. Straight away, I would love, the biggest influences that I've had in my life, straight away, Pavel Tsatsouline, I would love to have him. Even Abijayev, I'd love to have him pick his brains about training and all that. Man, that would be wild as. Who else? Who else would I absolutely freaking love to have around? Klokov. Klokov is another guy. Amazing. And in terms of, I've just realized that they're all Eastern boys. For somebody from the West, I would say, oh man. Some of the biggest influences that I've had was probably Clarence Kennedy. He comes to mind right away. He's probably the one that's most attainable. Some of these other figures are just, even Abijayev's passed away. Some of these other guys, they're not very big on social media, but I know Clarence Kennedy has a YouTube channel and all that. So I'd love to have him. I remember seeing him. There's many other guys in the West, Talander and Seeker Strength Boys and all these guys that I'd love to train with as well. But Clarence was kind of like, before I even knew what a freaking barbell was, I saw him squatting. And I was like, wow. So he was like a big motivator for me, big influence. Big log to the fire, you know what I mean? Those are probably some of the and then there's also like Tian Tao and Lou, but I don't think these guys would be able to communicate with me all that well. Well, maybe even Abijayev wouldn't either, Klokov. Maybe that's not even a factor. Also KK, Konstantinovos, I'd love to train with him. Of course, Louis Simmons. Oh my God, I can't believe I left him out. Louis freaking Simmons, man. Of course, Louis Simmons. Jesus. But yeah, I'll stop there, but there's many others probably. Gilbert Tortellini says, do cleans build size? Do cleans build size? Sure. Cleans are a power exercise, and that's probably not what you would go for to build size. I think it's very well known that if you want to build size, you need time under tension. You need volume. It's very hard to get volume with cleans with a power movement like that. But if you're talking about pure size, think what bodybuilders do. Time under tension, a lot of reps, a lot of pump work. Cleans are great, but cleans are, half of the cleans is technique, man. So that's got nothing to do with size. Anything that's really highly technical is going to be very difficult to utilize to build size. You want something that's simple, easy, and you can exhaust the muscle before you exhaust the central nervous system. Jackie Hano 2 says, hi Van, after almost 10 years of lifting, I'll be 28 in December. I got my first serious injury this week. Got mild tendonitis in my right wrist due to overuse. Feeling real sad since it's been 2 weeks now since my last gym workout. I was training for a marathon on the side and I'm still doing some mild running these 2 weeks. I already went to the doctor to get resonance and I'm scheduled to receive cortisone injection soon. 2 doctors looked at my resonance and said I should be okay. But anyways, I wanted to ask you, not for advice on the injury, but for mental motivation. I've had small shoulder, back, knee pain in the past, but this is the first time I simply cannot push through. I can't hold a push-up position, let alone bench press, because my wrist hurt like crazy. I tried squatting, but holding the bar alone makes my wrist. Man, the injuries suck. You know, injuries are never. I feel like I want to say injuries are never productive, but they are productive because they force a stop. And how many things in your life can actually force a stop? Not many. So once you stop, then analysis and review can truly begin. But when you're moving and you're swinging and you're in the heat of the battle on the front line and there's enemies all over the place and you're swinging the sword left, right, you got no time to think. You're just going with the flow. But when the war stops and you can sit on the sidelines and look at who you are and what you are and how you're going about it, then you can really kind of process things. So this, tendonitis story that you've mentioned, I mean, this had to happen for you to stop because the training wasn't going well, because you're overusing one particular part of your body, and that's not good. So rather tendonitis than something to go absolutely snap and you rupture the whole thing. So I think it's beneficial. Look at it that way. Mentally, I would approach it that way, that it's another way for you to progress. It's a point in your life where you can really reevaluate things and make a better plan. Aiden Philippis 537 says, Ivan is a go. Thank you, man. Momentum, Liberty, our hero. Appreciate you, man. Brown Shoe says, I've been on the night shift since 2018. I feel your pain. Yeah, man. Anybody that does night shifts will understand the difficulty of them. ANCR9676 says, do you think if you rest like 2 weeks right now, no squats, no deadlift, nothing, that you lift would improve significantly when you get back to it? I don't think so. I've had periods of my life where I've taken, even during the squat every day, like I've taken like a week off training. When I say off training, I'm talking about like I only squatted 60 kilos for like a few reps because of fever, because I was unwell. And obviously that's not like a proper rest, but I come back and I'm not feeling, I've had weight off my back, I've had weight off my muscles, but I don't feel like I'm strong. A better example would be, yes, I did normal training kind of periodization before I started squat every day. And oftentimes I would do the strength blocks, take a week off, come back, and I feel like nothing's happened. So I'm not all that crazy about the idea of that rest will make you stronger. Maybe for some people it works, but for me, it never really kind of felt that way. RA12 says, thoughts on Jason Blaha? Oh man, I have not thought about Jason Blaha for a while. Jason Blaha, I know he gets a lot of hate. He gets a lot of hate on the internet. And I don't know the full story behind everything. Obviously, I'm not an expert on Jason Blaha. But back in the day, when I first started learning about how to lift, how to train, Jason Blaha was a very positive influence for me. And I think a lot of people that are doing the hating right now also consumed a lot of his information. He, in my mind, is a positive individual in the space. Clearly, I don't know enough about the side stories. Some people have made huge freaking videos bashing him about this, that, the other. But from a fitness point of view, he's been positive towards me. Sure, okay. His progress hasn't been amazing. His, other things haven't been amazing. But we all know that you don't have to be a world record coach, a world record lifter to be a good coach. We all know that. We've seen that in many different genres of sport. You don't have to be a freaking S-tier athlete to make a good coach. In fact, the opposite is often true. The guys who are shit athletes or who have never been the absolute best of the best make really good coaches and managers of teams. So that's how I look at him, man. He has challenged my thoughts, challenged my ideas over the years. And I frankly have this feeling of thank you for him. I never really followed him that closely to know about all the other stuff that he's done. But from the fitness stuff that I've watched over the years, I liked it. That's the bottom line. I know there's been a lot of videos, like I said, about the extra stuff on the sides, the guns and all the other crap that was going on. I don't know anything about that. But for the fitness stuff, I think he was good. James Shook 440 says, adding fitness to the tissue to survive, best quote ever. Oh, thank you, man. B6XSB or something like that writes, I don't have a question, just want to say I've been watching for years while I eat lunch, dinner. Since I live alone, and you've made a massive positive impact in my life with your perspective on life and struggle over the years. Please keep sharing them and doing what you do. Man, that is such a cool feeling for me, man. When I read comments like this, it really kind of hits me to think, my God, people actually listen. It's really weird. This whole YouTube thing still hasn't hit me after all these years. The idea that somebody will sit there and listen to me talk about my experience in life and how I've dealt with the hurdles that I've had. It's really, really cool. So thank you for that. Thank you for that comment, man. Yuji Rohanma says, advice and steps to get ass to grass squat for someone who is 6'4". Man, you're a tall ass motherfucker. In basketball, probably not that tall. But for somebody that is really, really tall, the leverages that we're talking about are very long. And one of the leverages that needs to be very, very strong for you to survive an ATG squat is the hip flexes. Hip flexes need to be on point, and that ties in with your lower back. So get strong through your hip flexion, get strong in your lower back, and then you'll be able to hold these acute angles which are required in an ass to grass squat. I'm specifically talking about the hip, because the way the hip is balanced and holds that posture while you're going to a deep squat, it needs to maintain flat. And when the femur and lower back kind of meet in an acute angle, the hip flexors need to pull and pull hard to maintain that posture. And I feel like when you start to fail in that, you start to lean over, and then all sorts of trouble starts. So start at the hips, I would say that. Don't just think ankles. That is very superficial to what the problem is. You need to work on your core, which is hip flexors as a number one. I would start there. So, work on the hip flexors, sit-ups, hanging leg raises, all that stuff. Get that tissue really strong. Lunges, reverse lunges, a lot of single leg stuff is going to be amazing for a tall lifter. Absolutely amazing. You need to focus on those things, I would say. Big Ustov, I think he says, why? I don't quite understand that question. I don't know what you're referring to. I'm just wondering, Patrick Gleason says, I'm just wondering how you've been able to work out every day. I find it hard to do something every day, so I'm impressed by your dedication. Does it get easier with time? Man, I do think it gets easier, because your dialogue that has to go on every single day for you to do something gets better and better. So every single day that you wake up and you want to do something that is challenging, there's going to be part of your brain that says to you, hey man, let's not do this. Let's just plug in the video games, play the video games a little bit. Let's watch TikTok a little bit and YouTube videos. Let's not put ourselves in discomfort. So there's always going to be that. As you go through the, working out every single day, you will get better and better at that conversation. And so I always say to myself, cool, I acknowledge that this is going to suck for us, body, mind, and spirit. Going through physical discomfort is not the greatest. And I usually tell myself, okay, let me just start the wheels rolling. Let's just go in there, put the bar on my back, take it for a few sets, empty bar, easy shit. And see how it goes. That is literally how I beat that voice every single time. And then once I start moving, I start believing. When I start believing, I start to put another plate on and another plate. Literally, that's how I think about it. And so my training program doesn't have expectations on a day-to-day. I come in and I warm up. Just warm up. I have an idea what I want to do. That's cool. But it might not happen. If I warm up and it feels horrible, pull in the pin, man. Let's try again tomorrow. That's literally the relationship I have. And so it does get easier if you have this type of mentality and this type of approach, because I have this conversation like you do, but instead of me imagining the entire mountain that I have to climb, I just think to myself, let me put the shoes on. Let's put the shoes on and just walk up to the wall of this mountain and see what's up. And oftentimes you take the first step, which is the hardest one. And after that, there's momentum. DMNT says, what's your job? I am a nurse. Popcorn and Premiere says, I'm fed up with all society's judgments about me, especially relatives. They really suck, man. Morons who are happy when I'm at my lowest stage and still they come and sip tea at my home like that care about me. Real actors they are. Pull me out with your motivation, please. Well, hopefully some of the chatter that that I've already spoken about does something to you. But if you have bad people in your first circle of your life, as in family, that's very, very hard to deal with, man. Very hard to deal with. So that's something that you're gonna have to work out. But for the most part, if somebody's toxic towards you, there is no value in having them around. Truth CKR says, do you genuinely think you can squat 300 hard bar as a raw, natural lifter at a body weight around 100 kilos? Thanks for the free knowledge over all these 1700 days. When I set out to this journey, dude, I didn't have a lot of knowledge about what I was talking about. So when I first set out to this, I saw Clarence Kennedy. He seemed to me like a normal looking dude. He didn't look like an IFBB bodybuilder. So I was like, oh, I can look like him. So that's kind of where the belief started that I could squat 300 as well if I sink in 15, 20 years of training. But over the years, obviously, information came out about Clarence that he wasn't as natural as I thought. And obviously, he was supreme athletic specimen even before he touched all the supplements. So obviously now I have less and less belief that I can do it, especially at 100 kilos and ATG and the rest of it. But I do believe I can get close to it. I genuinely think I will improve. This is just a belief that I have. It could be just a complete delusion. But I believe I will improve and I will have big jumps in my training, in my progress once I work certain things out. That's kind of how I approach it and how I believe it, and I genuinely feel that way. Whether it's going to be 300 or not, I'm not sure. Obviously, that's a very high mountain to climb. But maybe if I hit 110, 115 kilos, I might be able to do it. That's a possibility. But right now, I'm kind of happy where I am. I'm enjoying training, and let's see how I can get it. Maybe it's going to be even more than 300. Who knows? Mr. Woohoo says, how is your perspective on life changed from when you started uploading to now? I reckon I've answered that question already. Night shifts are deadly. Absolutely, man. I reckon I've done this question as well. 6 days ago, I've answered that question as well. I wish I should have marked these questions. I knew what was going on. What are we at? 40 minutes. Actually, let's leave it here. Let's leave it here. I've just finished my mini session today. I'll jump in the shower, and then we're getting pizza today for the kids. So I'll have a pizza tonight. That's gonna be fun. The kids are gonna be all over it, and watch some Netflix, and then have a good night's sleep, and then get to work tomorrow again. I hope you guys are enjoying these videos. This is something that I really, really want to continue to do. I'll make more posts in the future, and we'll make more videos like this for Patreon. I feel like the Patreon crowd that I have is freaking amazing. So you guys are absolute champions. I learned so much from you guys. Some of the conversations we've had in the direct messaging on Patreon has been amazing. Patreon, number one thing that I love about Patreon is that it allows us to message each other continuously. So on videos, you can get kind of murky and lots of noise, lots of trolls and whatever. But with this, it's like you and me talk and we discuss, and I learn, you learn. It's amazing. So I feel like this is an extra bit of content for you guys that have been around, who have supported me for so long. So this feels really, really good to do, because you guys are the true support network for me. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this video. All right, guys. Appreciate you. Catch you in the next one. Peace out.